Welcome back to Wednesday, wonderful listeners. Now let's start with a statement. We are the most connected generation of workers in history by every measurable standard. More channels, more meetings, more people within reach in under 4 seconds. And yet, workplace loneliness is going up, not down. Networks are getting smaller, not bigger. And the leaders it's hitting hardest are frequently the most conscientious because they're the ones who never leave their desks. And this right here is the thing that is limiting your influence and promotional prospects. So today we're digging into the science. So hopefully you sit up and start changing that. Welcome to Unshakable Her, the podcast helping women in leadership build the influence, visibility and presence to make promotion inevitable. I'm your host, Caroline Esterson. Let's get started. Okay, so what can you expect for today? 3 things. 1, why the people who change your career, those people who are pivotal to your promotional prospects, are almost never your close colleagues, and what that means for where you need to spend your very limited time and energy. 2, what actually happened to our working relationships when the office emptied in 2020? And this is measured properly across a very large number of people. This isn't an opinion piece, it is data, and it explains the disconnection as a leader that you have been feeling. And 3, the research that will make you send the message. I mean it. If you take one thing from this episode, take this, because it is the single biggest gap between what we believe about other people and what is actually true. The science bit, because facts beat fear every time. So before we dig into the science, I have a little confession that I found quite uncomfortable to make for the first time. A few years ago, I did an exercise I now do with clients, and I did it on myself first, as you should. I wrote down the names of everybody I could ring tomorrow with a genuine problem. Not people I know, not connections, not the 4,723 contacts my LinkedIn tells me I'm now connected to. People I wanted to call who I knew would pick up, stay on the phone and help. I got 4. 25 plus years in this profession, hundreds of clients, thousands of learners, a contacts list that goes on for pages, and 4 names outside my immediate family and friends. And this is important, they were all people I've met by accident. None of them at a networking event, and not one of them was anybody I'd ever set out to know. And that last bit is the part I want to unpick today, because it's not a charming coincidence. There is a reason for it, and it was written up in 1973. I've got 4 pillars to hold us up in our science segment this week, so let's get right into them. Pillar 1 is the strength of weak ties. This comes from Mark Granavetta in 1973. It's one of the most cited papers in the whole of social science. He went around and asked professionals who had recently found a new job through personal contacts how well they knew the person who told them about it. Now, the expectation is close friends, obviously, your people, the ones who care about you. But that's not what he found. The large majority came through people they saw only occasionally or rarely. It was not. The large majority came through people they saw only occasionally or rarely. Acquaintances, the person 2 floors down, someone they'd worked with once, years ago. And the reason is beautifully logical once you hear it. The people closest to you move in the same circles you do. They know what you know. They hear about what you hear about. Your close network is actually an echo chamber, and an echo can't tell you anything new. Weak ties, now they're bridges. They are the key route to information that is not already in your leadership world and provides promotional opportunities beyond your natural scope. Which reframes Kara's spreadsheet entirely. She was ranking people by seniority and usefulness. And the research says the most valuable person in that business for her was somebody she had no reason to speak to on a regular basis, in a function she never worked with, whose name she didn't know before she actually made the call. It was Ashan in financial crime operations, who she rang about a stuck case. Hold on to that for a second because we'll come back to it. Pillar 2, what happened when we all went home? And this is the one that I want you to hear properly because it names the thing that you might have been feeling and couldn't evidence. There was a study published in Nature Human Behaviour, and they looked at the collaboration patterns of around 61,000 employees at Microsoft across the shift to organisational-wide remote working. This wasn't survey opinions, it was actual communication data. What they found was that the networks became more siloed and more static. There were fewer bridges between groups. People communicated more with their existing close contacts and less with the wider, weak connections. And communication shifted towards the asynchronous, the written, the scheduled, and away from the real time and the accidental. So put these two pillars side by side. Weak ties are where opportunity came from, and the way that we now work systematically destroys weak ties while preserving strong ones. That is your leadership disconnection. It's not in your head, it's in the architecture of work. We kept every way of reaching each other and lost the little chances created by bumping into each other. And nothing in modern working life is an accident anymore, is it? Every conversation's in the diary. Every diary is full. There's no corridor. There's no queue for the kettle. There's no walking back from a meeting together, which is where roughly 90% of everything I've ever learned about a client organisation has come from. So let's move on to look at pillar 3, what loneliness does to the work. Hakan Ozalek and Sigil Basard published a study looking at workplace loneliness and performance, and the findings are a bit uncomfortable. Lonelier employees were rated by their supervisors as performing less well on their core tasks. They were seen as less approachable and less committed as team members. And the effect ran through the relationships around them because loneliness is not just something that happens inside a person. It changes how other people experience them too. So this isn't a well-being footnote, it's a performance issue and it's a promotion issue. Because approachability is one of those things that never appears in a competency framework, and yet it gets discussed in pretty much every talent conversation. And notice the trap it sets for the conscientious. If you're the person who never leaves your desk, who eats lunch over your keyboard, who declines the coffee because you're behind, you're doing the thing that feels most responsible. And it's quietly costing you those promotional opportunities and reducing your influence. These don't come from competency, they come from relationships. And finally, pillar 4, and this is the one that I hope makes you send that message. Vanessa Bonds and Frank Flynn ran a series of studies on how good we are at predicting whether people will help us. They had participants estimate how many strangers they would need to ask in order to get a certain number of yeses, and then they had to actually go and ask. People underestimated how willing others were to help by roughly half. They thought they would need to ask about twice as many people as they actually did. And alongside that, sitting perfectly next to it, is the work on what has been called the liking gap. After a conversation with someone new, people consistently underestimate how much the other person liked them and how much the other person enjoyed the conversation. Consistently, not occasionally, and not just the anxious ones. So you are systematically wrong in exactly 2 ways. You think people are less likely to help you than they are, and you think they enjoyed you less than they did. Which means the message you didn't send would probably have been answered, and the conversation you were replaying in the car on the way home, cringing at the bits where you said the thing, was almost certainly experienced by the other person as perfectly pleasant and then forgotten within the hour. Both of those, incidentally, are the same finding, just wearing different hats. We assume we're in imposition, but yet we are almost never that imposition. Not the club, just bad processes. The system's the problem, not you. Let's fix it for you and the next one in. So the enemy that I have for you this week is the transaction reflex. It's the organisational habit of treating every single conversation as an item of business. And it didn't arrive by decision, it arrived by efficiency, which, frankly, is how most bad things arrive. Look at what's been removed in about a decade. Meetings that used to be an hour with a natural 15 minutes of drift at either end are now 30 minutes back to back with no gap, because a calendar tool made it possible to book them that way. Every conversation now requires an agenda, because a meeting without an agenda is considered unprofessional, isn't it? Travel time is gone, which sounds like a pure win until you remember that travel time was where two colleagues talked. And hybrid working, which I am genuinely in favour of, removed the last of the accidental encounters unless somebody deliberately puts it back. So the margins are gone now, and the margins were never the inefficient bit. The margins were where relationships grew, where you found out what was really going on, and where somebody mentioned in passing a thing that turned out to matter enormously. Organisations deleted so many of the spaces where connection happened, and then launched a mentoring scheme to fix the loneliness, and can't understand why the mentoring scheme has 40% dropout rate. And then, because we love a target, we turned the human bit into a metric. Number of network events attended, connections made, coffees logged, which produces precisely the spreadsheet Cara built, and precisely the awkward room at 5:30 that nobody has ever enjoyed. So here is the half that's yours. And this is where you as a leader gets to be the change rather than the casualty. If you lead anything, you control the margin. Book meetings for 25 and 50 minutes rather than 30 and 60, and let people arrive early. Don't filter the first 4 minutes with the agenda. Introduce two people who should know each other, and do it in a way that requires nothing of either of them. It's just taking an interest in them. Take one person a month who's nothing to do with your area and have a conversation with no particular purpose, just being curious. If you start to role model building those margins into your work, that adds immense value to you, and others will start to follow. And say it out loud. Explain to people that you're doing it deliberately, and explain why. As a leader, you think this is important. Because the moment a leader gives permission for a conversation without an agenda, 12 other people who are desperate for that permission take it, they seize it. That's influence, and it costs about 8 minutes a fortnight. So I've got 3 questions for you to sit with. Are you ready for them? 1, who would take your call tomorrow? Write the actual list. If it's 4, you're in extremely good company, and it's the most useful, perhaps uncomfortable number you'll write this year. 2, where are your weak ties? Name 3 people in your organisation you have no reason to speak to. Those 3 are statistically where your next opportunity lives. And 3, if you're in a leadership position, where in your team's weak is there any margin at all? And if the honest answer is nowhere, who do you think that's hardest on? It's not the extroverts. It's not the people who joined 5 years ago. You maybe might want to start helping people with this. So let's recap on the 3 things that I promised you right at the start. Weak ties, a study by Granavetta, who reminded us that the opportunities came overwhelmingly through people seen occasionally or rarely, because the people close to you know exactly what you know. What happened to us when we moved to remote working? Well, 61,000 employees aren't wrong, are they? Networks measurably became more siloed and static. Bridges were lost and the accidental chance encounters were just designed out. Your disconnection is structural, not personal. And the good news? Bonds and Flynn's research on how badly we underestimate people's willingness to help, and the liking gap on how badly we underestimate how much they enjoyed us. You are not an imposition. You've never been an imposition. So before I sign off, let's look forward to Friday. 3 moves, and none of them involve a room at 5:30 or a warm glass of wine, which I think we can all agree is a little bit of a relief. And there's a song from 2012 whose loudest moment is 2 syllables shouted out that don't mean anything on their own, which is entirely about wanting to belong to somebody. And I will tell you what happened when Cara went back to Ashan and asked about expedites the second time. See you Friday. That's it for today. Before you go, if something in this episode made you think, that That's why I do that. Hit follow wherever you're listening, because that moment of recognition, that's where Unshakable starts. Remember, I'm in your corner. See you Friday.